move to the next one. So what are research philosophies? So when you talk about a philosopher, it has been thought of as thinkers. And when it comes to philosophers, they think and come up with certain ideas. And when you look at research philosophies, so research philosophies are sets of beliefs and assumptions that guide researchers in their approach to conducting research. Now, it means there would be various research philosophies that can be followed, and thinkers and maybe research thought and research could be done from different platforms. So how you philosophize, or what we shall be seeing later on in relation to, say, research designs or research philosophies, the kind of thinking, will influence the kind of pattern and the kind of approach. If you have a philosopher who thinks that for you to arrive at a conclusion, you must follow a systematic way of maybe observing, getting data, then analyzing, looking at gaps, then interpreting and arriving at a conclusion, then that kind of thinking will shape the way that research will be done. So research philosophies shape the way researchers view the world in terms of what you call the world view. So how do you gather data? How do you interpret findings? We shall be seeing there are those who believe that you don't have to condition people. People must think the way they want to think and come up with conclusions because they have the knowledge. So you just make decisions based on what you know. But others say, no, you can't be the one who has a monopoly of knowledge or ideas. You must involve others. You must maybe get a sample. You must get responses, then get some kind of an analysis that you can say, this is what you have gotten from this background. So there are several prominent research philosophies that exist, and each has its own distinct characteristics, which we can look at briefly. So you have what you call positivism. So this is a research philosophy. And when it comes to positivism, those who follow this research philosophy will be the people who are positivists, right? So this philosophy emphasizes objectivity and the use of scientific methods to study the world. So the positivists argue that the world, in the world, there is supposed to be, you are supposed to, if you are to study, then it is supposed to be scientific. So you'll have what you call scientifically proven methods. And science is basically rotates on systematic. Where do you start? How do you go? Somebody can be able to do what you are doing and arrive at what you have arrived at. But there are those who we shall be seeing who argue that you don't have to use science. You have the knowledge, and if you have the experience, just make decisions. All right. So the positivisms argue that for you to be objective, you have to remove yourself from the whatever you are looking at, so that you minimize bias. You don't have bias. So they believe that reality is independent of the observer and can be discovered through observation and experimentation, right? And these positivists, they often use quantitative methods to collect and analyze data. So that then means if you are using a positivist approach, then there would be some quantitative approaches that you are going to use, so that when you are making your presentation, you can collect your data, you can have a data collection tool, you can validate and maybe have reliable measures taken to ensure that the tool is reliable and the tool is valid. What you are testing is actually testing what it should be testing in relation to the various approaches, as we shall be seeing. So this is one of the research philosophies, positivism. How about the next one? Interpretivism. So this is also, again, another research philosophy. So this philosophy focuses on understanding the subjective experiences and interpretations of individuals. So are you seeing it now? This one is like the opposite of what we have just looked at. So this is, you are basically looking at this person in a subjective approach, and you want them to interpret as individuals. So interpretivists believe that reality is socially constructed and varies from person to person. So they argue, you are a person, you may have the knowledge, so your interpretation as a person is what now stands out in terms of interpretivism. How are you interpreting phenomena? So they often use qualitative methods such as interviews, observation to gather data, right? So you can see these ones have an approach where the interview may be one-on-one, maybe a group interview, maybe it could be a focus interview, maybe you want to observe, and then you gather data using a schedule, and then you analyze that data, and then maybe you come to some conclusion. So those are interpretivism. Then we have the third one, which is pragmatism. So this research philosophy emphasizes practicality and the use of research to solve problems. So these are practical oriented. So they are called pragmatists. So they believe that the value of research lies in its ability to address real world issues and improve people's lives. They often use a mix of quantitative and qualitative methods to collect data. So you could see what the pragmatists are saying is like a fusion of the first two, where they are saying, yes, quantitatively you can collect data, but you could miss out something, which can be complemented by qualitative. So they use what you call mixed methods. So you have a bit of quantitative, then you have a bit of qualitative, then you find out, you have findings on those two extremes, then you try to come up with a conclusion based on those two variations. So that is just not one-sided. So those are the pragmatists. All right. So what is important for us to note here is that the choice of a research philosophy will be influenced and will greatly depend on the nature of the research question, the field of study, and the researcher's personal beliefs. And maybe if you have been looking at what is going on in the country at the moment, there's this issue of the funding model, right? There's a new funding model being introduced, and there seem to be a bit of challenges. So according to you, which approach do you think could be looked at? Because there seems to be a problem. Stakeholders seem not to be agreeing. And now they have constituted, as it were, some kind of a team of over 100 members, right? So which approach do you think could help this kind of a scenario? It is important for researchers to be aware of their philosophical stance and how it influences their research process. So you need to go in with an open mind, even if you're a philosopher from maybe positivist approach, accept there are also other approaches to be able to have different consensus. And I think if you have previously had an opportunity to watch the recruitment of the senior officers in the judiciary, like the judges, one of the questions I've been seeing them being asked is, what is your philosophy, or what kind of a person or judge, or what kind of a thinking do you have? That is normally able to make the panels know what is the philosophical orientation, so that when you are having maybe an issue to be tackled, you take 3 judges. If you are creating a bench or so, you take 3 judges. One should have this philosophical orientation, the other one should have this philosophical orientation, the other one should have this. Then when you are writing a ruling, for example, you are able to see things from different angles and maybe be able to dispense justice, right? And that's why maybe they have been emphasizing on sample writings to see how do they approach issues to be able to have that rational approach to issues. Then research is a vital activity that contributes to human knowledge, problem solving, and being innovative. So looking at just that scenario we have painted, then you can see different cases where students are saying, because students, if you are saying this is a student-centered approach, then the student should be in the center. So if the student is saying this is not working, right? Then you could see scenarios like what we were seeing on TV in relation to, or in the media in relation to multimedia university, is it? So the question then is, if you disperse these people and you maybe tear gas them, then would that be solving the problem? And that's now where the thinking is, for you to maintain peace, you disperse them. But if you are to find out what is the problem and look at it from a different lens, and that's what research philosophies do, they provide a different lens through which to view the world and conduct research, right? Then by understanding these philosophies, researchers can make informed choices about the research approach and methodology. And more so, if you look at, for example, medicine, they try different approaches to be able to solve certain problems, even diagnosis. And that is one area where continuing research is going on, because diseases that initially were thought to be afflicting older people, it has now come and the age is coming lower. So in medicine and clinical studies, a lot of research, scientific research, medical research is going on. The area of maybe food production, the area of climate change, the area of even human relations, the area of work, the area of psychology. So a lot of research is going in there in relation to those processes. So this is what is important to note about the philosophies and the approaches that are adopted in relation to scientific inquiry or research.